Hello! Welcome back, everybody, to another live stream repair. Yeah, so it appears, as of last night, Apple accidentally stopped signing essentially every single version of firmware or OTA update that exists for every type of HomePod, the first gen, the second gen, the mini. Essentially, if you buy a brand new HomePod right now, and or you get your mini and you put it in it needs to be plugged into your computer to be restored, you won't be able to do that because Apple said technically we don't approve any versions of our software to run on your stuff. So we got a few people, of course, that emailed us with the issue described as, hey, I'm trying to restore my HomePod and I'm getting this weird error, like device isn't eligible and stuff like that. And yeah, sure enough, Apple has gone and goofed up. If you go to ipsw.me and you peruse any of the models of HomePods, you will notice, indeed, not a single version of software is signed at the moment. There is an exception. The first gens still have, like, OS version 12 signed, which is absolutely hilarious. In the meantime, yeah, we're going to be fixing some HomePods. Just sitting tight and waiting for them to fix their stuff so people can go back to using their own hardware that they paid for. Let's shoot a message to Daniel so they can watch us wrap up their HomePod. We're just getting an amplifier out here so that we can swap their amp out with another one. All right. Daniel has been messaged. My screwdriver is gone. Why do I do this to myself? That's not where the screwdriver goes, and the screwdriver is gone. It's not where it belongs, which means it's gone. Did I put it? Where did I put it? Found it. Oh, I forgot something else. Hold on. Okay. Ooh. That's a spicy one. Okay. So we're gonna get this amplifier out of this parts pod that I have, give it a once over, and replace the usual items that need to be replaced. And then we'll put Daniel's HomePod back together and it'll be one happy HomePod again. Where'd that screw go? Oh, there it is. we aren't fixing Daniel's board, and instead we're just replacing the whole thing because where can I put this? I should put it here for now. Because there is a lot going on there. There's a hole in their main amp chip, which probably came from the filters going bad and letting too much DC through. The 10 ohm resistor is also blown up, and it also needs a new diode. Assuming we replace all that and it worked, it would still need a new diode after that to prevent the power issue. But chances are, and I've seen these a handful of times, if that amp chip is physically damaged, there's a good chance there's more going on, and it's just not, at this moment in time, worth it for us to sink a bunch of time into trying to fix one of these when we've got enough good working ones sitting around that we can save everybody a little time on. And then in the future, when we do find that extra time, we can do a deeper dive. So here is our good amplifier. It still has the original filters though, so we are going to replace those with fresh brand new ones because I don't want, obviously, the same thing happening to Daniel again as soon as they get their HomePod back. The Schottky diode is dated 3.6K, so we don't need to worry about that, and this amp shouldn't have any problems with that failing and causing any no power issues. So let's get this refreshed with some new filters, and we'll get Daniel's HomePod put back together and on the road. Have I tried a subwoofer between different generations? I haven't, because they are essentially identical. Same power rating and all that. The connector is a little different. You'd have to swap the connectors over. But there's really no point because it's like, yeah, it produces a sound output, but now you have to figure out how to mount the thing. And the mounting is completely different between the two generations. The second gen HomePod has more similarities to the Mini than it does its first gen parent. Down to the physical materials that they used and the quality of them. It just feels cheaper. Like the plastic. It's kind of weird. But if you look at the board ID, the board IDs between the second gen HomePod and the Mini are also a lot more similar than between the second gen and the first gen. Oh boy, for the price that it would cost you to stock up on broken second gens just to use them for their subwoofers, you'd be better off just buying the first gen subwoofer brand new from one of the Chinese resellers on like AliExpress or eBay. I think they charge like 60 to 80 bucks or something. For granted, it's brand new. As far as I can tell. It'd be funny if Apple was sending all of the broken ones that people sent them back to China, and then people in China were dismantling them and reselling their parts. Instead of, doing it themselves or selling us parts directly. Still. And like, what happened to the whole? We're gonna start selling like parts for all of our stuff moving forward. I don't see parts for the minis or the second gens still. I call BS. They will sell parts to you for things that they think they can, you know. Actually, I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh, and I'll give an explicit and warm welcome to Joseph and Raj in the chat there. Also welcome. I'm gonna shorten. I'm gonna call you Kunch. I'll call you Kunch unless you want a different nickname. Let's get you guys up close. You can't even see what I'm doing in there. Much better. Well, I wouldn't say never, because that was the same line of thinking behind them not selling parts for any of their products until the self-service repair program opened up. But at the end of the day, how much longer can they keep doing this to people and their customers, where people just keep getting screwed over, and then eventually they get to the point where they're like, all right, I'm not gonna buy your crap anymore. But on the flip side, there's so many, new customers, people that have never bought their stuff before every day, probably more than not trying to, or more than not, that are outnumbering the people, no longer buying their stuff. It's like they could at least sell like replacement mesh and like power cables, right? Like that's easy enough for people to get to without breaking anything. But no, if they did that, they would have to make the drawstrings on the second gen, long enough to actually use them. So hey, Danny, welcome. Glad you could make it. Excuse me. Ah, jeez. I'm about to check the website and check IPSW and see if Apple has finally started signing HomePod software again, or if they're just going to leave people to hang and dry for another day or two. It's weird that when you go to Apple's status page, it's like there's an outage reported for books and the Mac App Store, but nothing else. And I don't know if I don't know how those interact with each other. But yeah, you buy a brand new HomePod right now, be it a second gen or a mini from Apple, and it comes to you with out-of-date software. As of right now, you can't even update that over the air. It'll download the update. It'll let you hit the install button, and then it'll just keep trying over and over. Hello, Lucas. Welcome to the chat, and glad to hear another successful diode replacement happened. Not everyone can even get to that diode without causing more problems for themselves. Oh yeah, it's either, and most likely, it is just an accident or some internal issue at Apple, because it affects all of them, right? All the HomePod models. Or, less likely, this is totally on purpose, and the fact that it affects all the HomePod models is just sort of a distraction from the fact that they're trying to come up with a way to stop it when they bring that stuff back online. But it's most likely the former. The latter is pretty cuckoo. Very very self-centered of us to think that it would be our fault that any of that happened. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal that we figured out how to restore the first gens, but I don't think it impacts Apple's bottom line enough for them to really change anything. The people that held on to their first gens waiting for this day to come aren't gonna go and buy a second gen now because they can't suddenly restore them and they patched the method. Not just as much as they weren't gonna go buy a second gen waiting indefinitely for a fix to come for their first gen. I just don't think HomePods or their customers are that important to Apple. But hey, if I want to make myself feel like I mean more to the world or like I'm more important than I am, I'll tell myself that. This was totally our fault. We did it. My bad. All right. So the good news is let's assume the worst case scenario. Let's assume that they never actually re-sign any versions, and they like somehow completely change the whole process, and like it breaks our current way of restoring these. Technically, since these are A8 devices, they are hardware vulnerable still to the checkmate crap. So in theory, you could still do what's called a tether boot, where remember back in the old days where you jailbroke your iPhone.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Yay! Back in the old days when you would jailbreak your iPhone with certain versions, it would. You would have to plug it back into your computer and basically re-jailbreak it in order to boot the thing back up, right? That is still something. That is still a possibility for HomePods, even in the long distant future where they completely stop supporting the software on them entirely. Okay. We've got Rob and I'm gonna call them Subaru because they use their business to ship this one. So let me see whose this is. Oh, and as for Daniel, stay tuned after our stream today. We've still got a few more HomePods to fix up, but you'll see another email from us following up. We'll let you know how to pay and get your HomePod back. So let's see what else we have to fix up. It's going to be a Rob and a Subaru. I'm going to find out who this Subaru one is first. Uh-oh. Well, they told me that they were sending it with this business name, and then now it's... Let's see. Let's see if there's a name in the box. Oh yeah, those two first-gen HomePods that showed up with no power and nothing on it other than WFB. I still don't know who those are. They've been here for like a week, and no one's claimed them. Like, very, very low chances that somebody sent in two perfectly repairable HomePods to me for free. So I'm bracing myself for the angry email from the person that sent them in without me following up when they showed up, because we just simply don't know whose they are. I can't correlate the little info I have on the box with whoever might have sent this in. Alright, here we got Ravi and Rob. So let's see what's wrong with Ravi's HomePod. Ravi's makes a popping noise and then turns off. And then we've got a Rob. Let's see what's wrong with Rob. Let's see. Rob. Rob with very muffled bass. Alright. Let's do Ravi first and then we'll look at Rob. Roib? I think not. Alright, Ravi. Let's send you a link so you know when you can watch. Do I fix other Apple devices if I ever need in the future? Yes-ish. So, in general, what I tell people is if there's already a shop or a service out there to fix your device, go to them. They're more likely than not gonna have more experience in that device and higher chance of repairing what you've got. If, and this is what I'm looking for, if you cannot find anybody to fix what you've got, then I might be interested and might be able to fix it for you. I won't be interested if there's other services that already offer it. But if I think I've got a shot, I am more than happy to take that shot with you. So do save my name, save my website. It's easy to remember, just look up Nick's Fix. I'm the only one out there, I think. So, actually I lied, there's a Nick's Fix, ironically, like 30 minutes from me that does small engine repair. Anyways, Ravi, here we go. I miss my Tex Yoda, man. This thing was sweet. I need to figure out why that stopped working, because typing on this is like typing in a bowl of mashed potatoes. Alright. And a wonderful job packing it by Ravi. Well done. Although, if you didn't ship your Subaru parts like that, I would be pretty disappointed too. I'm just imagining, as it's happened to me before, just a casual 15-pound starter motor floating around bare naked in a cardboard box. Good times. Or better yet, the leaky bag of coolant, of 5 gallons of coolant. Will be interesting to see the 3rd gen HomePod. I don't think we're going to see a 3rd gen HomePod like we've seen traditionally with the 1st and 2nd gens. What you're going to see is, you've heard the rumors of the iPad HomePod hybrid thing. That's, I believe, going to be the next, major HomePod iteration. Sad to say, it doesn't seem like Apple's going to be taking any serious step forward into home theater or home audio anytime soon. So, I fully expect the HomePod iPad hybrid thing to be, at the most, maybe as good as a 2nd gen HomePod in terms of sound quality. But that is really, really optimistic. More likely it's going to be somewhere between a 2nd gen HomePod and a Mini in terms of sound quality and performance and oomph, Because it's not, you gotta remember, if it's for audio, it would be silly to have a bunch of those things, to buy a bunch of those and have them sitting around your house. Because they got tablets on them. So, it wouldn't make too much sense. And I think they've learned their lesson with the 2nd gen, and frankly, they kind of did it to themselves by making it what it was. But anyways.
I'm having trouble connecting.
Ooh, that's a popper. All right, so that is the classic DC offset, as we call it by the technical name. The user-friendly name, if you could call it that, is death farts. That's when those lovely capacitors that you see us always replacing go bad and let too much DC voltage through the amplifier, along with that audio signal. So when the amplifier amplifies the audio signal and it sees too much DC voltage in it, it'll death fart and force restart on you. I've got a sound sample of that right here. Yeah, so it'll do that. It'll force restart in an attempt to tell the user something is wrong, please stop. Kinda try to cool itself off a little bit. But at the end of the day, when those caps go bad and it starts farting, they're not going to magically get better. It only gets worse. In addition to that, heat has an effect on their ability to filter that DC voltage even further. So the hotter they get, the less effective they become. And when they start going bad, the hotter they get, the worse the problem gets as well. It's quite the cluster they created inside. And that won't just lead to louder than normal popping as it goes in and out of standby mode to conserve power, but it'll also blow up bits here and there on your amplifier. It'll roast your subwoofer. Subwoofers and analog speakers do not like DC voltage. You might think to yourself, as I did before I started fixing HomePods, well, wait a second, I thought audio that I wired into my speakers was DC because I've got a positive and negative, right? Well, you do have a positive and negative, but AC or audio is an AC signal. So with an AC audio signal, it's going to move the subwoofer in and out and return to the middle. With a DC signal, it's going to move the subwoofer one way and it's going to hold it there. So now the subwoofer can't move as much. It's working extra hard to hold itself where it's at, and so is the amplifier. So now it can't cool itself because it uses the movement to passively cool itself, and it overheats, and you have a rough time. You get stinky subwoofers. And Apple did such a fantastic job gluing the thing together that more often than not, you don't smell nothing different. But trust me, oh, if the woofer's roasted and you get it out, it is stinky. So I'm hoping, as I always hope that I never have to replace a bass speaker and it's just a little bit of board repair on these HomePods. But every once in a while we don't make it in time, and its woofer is very toasty. As a matter of fact, that back there, you can see a glimpse of my wall of dead subwoofers that I've kept over the years, hoping that I can find a way or someone to send them to get refurbished. Because the most expensive parts on those subwoofers are still just fine, and that's the magnet and the metal basket. The copper voice coil is bad, yeah, and that is also a fairly valuable part, but rebuilding a speaker like just a standalone speaker, is fairly doable and reasonably easy, even for a DIY person. I mean, heck, they sell DIY build-your-own speaker kits where you're literally gluing and you're winding your own voice coil and you're gluing your own foam surround and dust cover on. It makes sense that the Gen 2 has a tighter bass response because they use a bigger amplifier chip. They like, it literally has a bigger amplifier. Oh. Ugh. Don't sniff that. I am sad to say, Ravi, that is absolutely roasted. Well, it's a good thing I just picked a few HomePods apart for parts, because I have a subwoofer standing by ready for this very moment. I'll go ahead and show you guys a quick little comparison of what a good one and what a bad one's supposed to look like. Here is a good one. If we dive down and we look inside of our little inspection port, you can see the voice coil. That is nice and copper colored. But then we look at our woofer here out of Ravi's HomePod, and that is looking mighty gnarly. So I'm gonna set that in my pile. We're gonna get our replacement woofer, set that to the side for now. And let's get this torn the rest of the way apart so that we can repair the reason that subwoofer had a meltdown. I need something to drink, so I will be right back. Okay. It's probably autocorrecting max. It could be autocorrecting max because it thinks it's a product name, or it could be autocorrecting max because it thinks it's a person name. I don't know if iOS autocorrects for names or just, you know, product names, or also people names. Oh, yeah. No, I totally missed Dan's question about whether the first or second gen sounds better. And you're not going to like my answer. You might have expected it, but I can't tell you which one sounds better objectively. Subjectively, my personal opinion, the second gen does sound a little tighter, a little cleaner, crisper, but on the flip side, it does sound a little, almost a little, to me, tinnier, I'd have to admit. Sorry. I find it's ironic how it's got both a more tighter and controlled bass, but at the same time, it seems like it's just kind of less. And my theory behind how I perceive those differences that way is because on the first gen, you've got more tweeters, but they don't fire directly down at the table that it's sitting on. They kind of have to curve around in order to before the sound goes from the speaker to the surface. On the second gen HomePod, they do have fewer tweeters, but they use a newer neodymium magnet instead of rare earth magnets, and they fire directly at the surface that the HomePod's placed on. So that, in combination with more, a beefier amplifier chip itself in the second gen, seems to me like they just they kind of toned it down a little bit, made it a little more efficient, a little tighter, but ultimately not as raw loud, I guess. I don't know. At the end of the day, you could buy either one of them and you probably won't be disappointed, but if you're accustomed to one of them, you'll probably like that one more than what you'd be replacing it with. That's what I and a lot of others have found, but still, there's a lot of people out there, like we got Kunch in the chat there. Kunch likes the Gen 2s more than the Gen 1s. To me, it's most obvious with the Siri voice. Oh, there goes my phone and probably everyone else's. The voice just sounds way more cheap and artificial on the second gen than the first gen. Less like it's got less bass in it. Less bass and less mids. Way cleaner, crisper trebles, but still. The first gen HomePod will absolutely tone its bass down if it starts to get too hot. It's not much, but it will get weak. Actually, I take that back. I am confusing some details. So they can reduce their bass volume if they run hot, but that is usually because of this problem in particular when these filters go bad, and the worse they get, the less bass performance you're going to achieve because of that DC voltage interfering so much. But that is a different problem from normal operation, normal operating temperatures, and if it's a hot day or a particularly hard and long listening session. It is still very hot. All right. Those top ones somehow wiggled away. There we go. Our 10 ohm resistor, to my surprise, looks impeccable. I'll go ahead and measure it for posterity here. I've got 9.9 ohms. Can't really get much better than that. What's the date code of our diode? 26K? Alright. So it looks like all this one needed, which isn't to say it's nothing, but it needed new filters and it's going to need a new speaker. So let's get this back together with just that. And we should have one more to get fixed. The first gen is a bit boomier, which some prefer. Yep, spot on. And I am one of those. I am one of those people. That makes sense though. The Mini doesn't have, it doesn't really generate all that much heat. But the second gen and the first gen HomePods, they do. Well, first of all, they have their power supplies built internally. The Mini has the power supply external, so there's that much less heat and that much more room to circulate. And then the second gen has that heatsink on the amplifier as well, which will, yes, help the amp chip run cooler, but in turn dump all that heat and, keep it in the sealed enclosure inside of the second gen. But all that said, I can't say I've, like you said, I can't say I've heard them under normal conditions reduce the volume for anything. Gosh, and that's just anything more than like 70 to 75% volume out of these things. If you're not like more than like 10 feet away from it, that's too loud for me personally. That's painful. Looks like it might be about time for me to try to buy more T6 Torx bits from iFixit. The last time I reached out to them about a year ago. No, it was about 8 or 10 months ago now. I reached out to them and I was like, hey, it's, me, NixFix. I was wondering if I could buy just the T6 Torx bits because I've chewed through all of mine in the kits I've bought from you guys fixing, so many HomePods. And they were like, no, we won't sell you any, but we'll be happy to just send you some warranty replacements, a few extra. And I insisted. I was like, I would really like to pay you guys money to procure more T6 Torx screw bits. And they said, nope. Shoot us a picture of what your bit looks like now, and we will send you a few replacements. And they did. Good on them. But damn it, I want to just go to the store and click buy now and just buy a dozen more of them. I don't want to have to go through a warranty replacement every time over, it's only a couple bucks. Come on. I don't care about the warranty at that point. I feel like I'm using these tools under possibly slightly different conditions than they generally anticipate their tools to go through. But I'm more than happy to pay for a replacement. And they still just don't, I don't even think they realized that, I was trying to flex on them like, hey, I'm NixFix, by the way. I'm more than happy to pay for them. Don't send them to me for free, please. Just let me pay for them. And they were like, nope. You will get these, and we will not sell them. What are your thoughts on extended listening with them at 100% volume? Yeah, I agree with you that all of it seems like it's designed to, do it. I haven't seen enough failures related to, pretty much the majority of the hardware failures that we see, there's a reason or an explanation for why it happened. And none of those reasons have been somebody sitting there and blasting it at full volume for too much. So, I imagine, like all things, if you sit there and you run it at 100% for hours or days on end over and over again, inevitably that's going to reduce the life expectancy to some degree. It's no different with anything, though. Your car, your phone, your computer, all of that. That's why I like to run things at 75 to 85% at most. That way, I've always got that little bit of extra headroom if I really want it, but I'm not, putting things under more strain than the manufacturer anticipated people putting them under for the majority of their lifespan. Accelerated wear and tear, Just because it was made to go 100% doesn't mean you can all the time. It's there for when you really want it. The bass is a little weak at 100%, but other than that, it's quite good. So I'll tell you why it seems that way. When the way that Apple scales the volume up and down is not linear between the low frequencies and the high frequencies. What I mean by that is at 50% volume, at a volume setting of 50%, to put it basically, the HomePod is actually outputting the bass volume at probably 60-75%, with the mids and tweeters, tapering off a little less than that. And the lower you turn the volume down, it's not going to turn the bass down as much as the mids and trebles. There's going to be more and more of a discrepancy. And that is because of the way that humans perceive different frequencies. If I don't have this backwards, it's that we are able to perceive lower frequencies, like we perceive a low frequency at the same volume as louder than a high frequency at the same volume, if that makes sense. So what Apple does to take advantage of that is, and you probably noticed it on the HomePods, why they sound so good at low and medium volume is because the bass is practically at medium to high volume when it's doing that. So when you go to turn it all the way up, well, you already basically maxed your bass out long ago. Probably halfway to 3/4 through turning your volume up, you'll notice that the bass literally just pretty much doesn't increase at all. It's probably going up maybe a couple percentage. There's a specific term for that, which they've taken advantage of and have tuned for accordingly. I can't remember what the name of it is, what it's called. Was thinking, Alex, welcome back. Alex was thinking of sending their working HomePod for maintenance. Or should they wait? And you'll like my answer. I always tell people to not spend any money and not worry about their HomePod if it's working just fine. As soon as it does start to have issues, you don't want to ignore them. But if it's working fine, you've got nothing to worry about. For all you know, the thing's going to outlast your interest in it, and you'll get rid of it before it does have problems. And in that case, amazing. You didn't have to spend any more money on it, and that's how it should have been in the first place. But if and or when it does have an issue, that's the point where you don't want to keep pushing it and ignoring it, especially if it's death farting or if the popping sound that it makes going in and out of standby mode is becoming much louder. Then you definitely want to get that sent in and not put it off. But if it works fine, don't worry about it, because it's not going to cost you any more or less to send it in before or after it starts experiencing problems. That said, if it starts having problems and then you put it off and you keep ignoring those problems, that is usually when more damage occurs and repairs get a teeny bit more expensive. And by that I mean we have to replace an entire board or speaker, and we can't just do a little bit of board repair. Usually that's death farts. That's when somebody's HomePod starts death farting and they just keep using it because, it restarts and then it works fine after that for a while. So don't do that. Alright, let's let that turn on. I'm going to take a quick minute break. We will be right back. Grab a drink, grab a bathroom, do what you need to do. All right. Welcome back. I am back. Is our base good?
I'm having trouble connecting.
Oh yeah.
I'm having.
Very nice. And that pop is all but completely gone. We love to not hear it. So that leaves us with the last one that I think my back has the patience for right now. We've got Rob. With a very muffled bass sound. Alright. Let's get their name up on the screen too there. We got Rob, and they say muffled bass, but it's gonna be the same problem here. Those filters went bad. Hopefully the subwoofer is still good, and we just need to replace a couple of components. Oh, Rob, that is some nice handwriting. All right. Yeah, let me cover up the contact info here, the personal details, so you guys can see this beautiful handwriting for yourself. Let me tell you. Oh, look at that! I wish you could see his last name, because that's just buddy. I'm not like obsessed with handwriting. Mine's pretty bad. But I do like me some good handwriting. Okay. This is Rob's pod. Let's see what it does for us here at this very moment on this desk.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Ooh.
For more info, check the home app.
No. I know what's inside. It's the exact same thing. Unfortunately, that subwoofer is going to be roasted too. I can hear it. It should not sound scratchy and muffled like that. Okay, here we go. See if we can wrap this up before the wife gets home. A little bit of rubbing alcohol to soften up that adhesive. That's a hand cramper. Here we go. Goodness. Oh, I can smell that subwoofer now. Ooh, stinky. How much more power do you think the subwoofer could take if the amp was even more powerful? I'm not sure. I think the subwoofer is rated for 45 RMS. 45 watts RMS. And I think the amp chip is like 30 to 35 watts. You don't have a whole lot more room. It's not necessarily that they're pumping more power through the subwoofer in the second gen. I'm not even going to smell that. I can smell it from here. It's not that they're pumping more power through the second gen subwoofer. It's more so that they have the power to be able to articulate the woofer in a more controlled fashion. So they can push it out, pull it back in with more control and more, more quickly, snappier. That results in the tighter bass. All right. Another woofer here. I just want to make sure it's not bent anywhere. Sometimes I pull these from HomePods that were banged up pretty good and I haven't got the chance to straighten them out yet. But that one looks good. Alright. This one needs the works. Needs a new woofer. Needs new filters. Needs a new 10 ohm resistor next to the subwoofer connector here because this one is looking rather roasty. And it also needs a new diode because that one is dated for 8K and that will inevitably fail and cause no power amidst all the other issues it's already had. So let's start with those filters. Let's keep that replacement bass speaker good and going. Alright, something just popped into my mind and I absolutely have to try it really quick before I do not have the time to do so. I want to... I've been practicing on busted logic boards trying to... Alright, I've about had it with that. Over there. I've been practicing. Uh-oh. There we go. Reballing these NAND chips. And the biggest challenge that I've noticed isn't actually getting the chip off, it's getting to it. There's this big, metal I/O shield here that this normally sits on. And I tried cutting this middle section out, and that kind of works, but it's kind of janky. I want to see really quick if I can't get this whole I/O shield off. Do not touch. Alright. I'm going to turn up the air filter here because this might get a little stinky. And then the other complication is this, the plastic connector here. How the heck are people doing this? Actually, I wonder if we do need this on, so we can focus that more on, uh-oh. There we go. Alright. I imagine they're going from the outside. Oh, you know what? I wonder if they are using low mount. Let me experiment with this for a minute, and then we'll hop back into Rob's repair there. let us see. Is that the trick? Maybe some magic hands or some helping hands too. Damn, that is just not budging. Oh? Oh? Okay. So I guess it's kind of doable. Not really ideal, but I'll have to think about that some more. Alright, well thank you all for entertaining me with that little mini exploration, that little side quest there. Let's continue our repair for Rob here. We got those old filters off. Let's get it prepped for some new ones. Do I know what the total RMS of... I don't know what the total RMS of either of them was, to be honest with you. Only know the specs of that speaker. Just from another Chinese seller. That was like, yeah, this is from a HomePod. It's rated this much RMS. Cool. I don't know where you got that info from, but I guess that's what we'll go off. All right. 4 fresh and nicely aligned filters. Let's get that 10 ohm resistor. It's not in the worst shape we've seen by far, but it's it doesn't look perfect, so we're gonna replace that. Hahaha. Oh, beautiful. We pulled that off with just a little low melt in our iron. Look at that. Fantastic. Alright, let's get the right solder on there. The good stuff. It'll flow itself into place. Observe. How many watts at max? Oh, brother, I really don't know. Nobody really knows. All we know is just from that Chinese seller selling the subwoofer speakers saying that it's 45 watts RMS. I don't know what the peak is. We could sacrifice one and find out. See what it blows up at and say, all right, well, 5 or 10 watts less than that's max. Well, all right. That's good. So the last thing we need to do here, it still works, but it's not for long. It's that 48K diode that will fail and cause no power. Let's nip that in the bud. Ooh, that was almost just Alright. I think I'm done having a stroke. Let's get this new diode on here. Alright. Back together you go. How many watts for a whole HomePod at the wall at max? I haven't looked in a long time. According to my kilowatt, I think at moderately high volume I saw upwards of 20 to 30 watts. But now that you've got my brain churning on it, I'm gonna have to go and double check. Actually, I think I can check right now. Let's see. Will that reach? No. Will this reach? Yes, it will. Okay. I am booting up a HomePod off screen right now that's connected to this kilowatt meter. Once it finishes booting up, I'll play some music on it and we'll see what it peaks at. I'll crank that sucker all the way up. We'll try a couple different songs. Hopefully we can test that before my wife pulls in. I like to be loud and obnoxious, but understandably so, my wife doesn't really like to be around loud and obnoxious all the time, so I gotta be loud and obnoxious. I gotta save it for when I'm home alone. Frankly, I'm getting a little too old to be loud and obnoxious myself, but...
I'm having trouble connecting to
Oh, you shut up. You were not having trouble. You were home. If AI does take over the world, the HomePods are coming after me first. I verbally abuse my HomePods. But that's because I take care of them. And they still screw me over. No, in all fairness, they work perfectly great as AirPlay speakers, and that's usually what I use them for. No problems there. It's as soon as you try to do it for anything smart that it starts to make you question, why are you bothering? I am thirsty. Ow! I don't know what I just smacked my foot on, but play some music.
On it.
Yeah, you better be on it.
Sorry, Nick. I'm having problems with the connection.
Oh, I don't want to hear it from you. Oh, my frickin' phone is dead. Well, it's playing music anyways. I'm gonna turn my microphone gain down so you guys aren't deafened by this. It's going all the way down. Alright, I'm probably a lot quieter now.
Sure. Here's some music just for you. Sorry, there was a problem with Apple Music.
Oh my... Smart stuff, man. Makes you feel real stupid. Play music.
Okay, here's a station just for you.
That's what I thought.
Sorry.
No!
There's a problem with Apple Music.
No! My phone's dead. The HomePod won't connect to the internet. Gotta do everything yourself these days. There. You happy now? You saw one at 110 watts? What the hell? That's insane. I'm not sure if I will get a first gen that hard. Here we go. All right, keep an eye on the watt meter. That's what that HomePod's plugged into. I'm gonna turn it all the way up. It's up all the way. So that's not a whole lot of power. That was only like what, 20 watts at most? Seriously? Where is this one? Alright. This one's got some pretty ridiculous bass, so we'll see what that pulls. Again, sorry for the volume, but you know, this is we're testing stuff here, so I've got the mic turned down as much as it'll go. Alright, I think I saw 38 watts at most. I think I saw 38. 40. 40. I saw 40. Let's try that section again with the volume all the way up. Alright, gain is coming back to normal. Turning up my volume. Alright. Yeah, so I think I saw 40 watts at most. And even with it turned down to about 70%, it peaked at about 40 watts. So most of that power is going into the woofers. But keep in mind, each tweeter is a 15 watt tweeter. RMS. RMS. So I have a feeling my kilowatt meter here is not giving us the clearest picture of the peak power draw. Which makes sense. This isn't giving us an instantaneous value. It's giving us more like kind of like a rolling average of one's, you know, the last second. It only updates every second. About every second, maybe a little quicker. So chances are it's pulling a little more than that. We're just not quite seeing that. But now, oh man, now you got me going. I'm gonna have to try my second gen and see if it's, you know, see where it's at. If it's significantly more, then whew, I'll be really curious where all that extra power is going, because I don't hear it. To be fair, this is a big disclaimer too. It's been a hot minute since I've done a direct side-by-side comparison of a first gen and a second gen. Matter of fact, I think the last time I did was when the second gen launched, and I'll brag about this till the day I die, but we were the first to get our hands on one and tear one down live on YouTube. No one else outside of Apple had seen the insides of this before, and we showed it to you guys. Boy, okay. That was a really small but very exciting thing for me, because as a very small channel with basically zero reputation or recognition, to be the first at something, especially such a big product from such a big company as Apple, there were a lot of people wanting to see what they did differently with the second gen. And and leading up to it too, we had been joking about it. We were like, and before we're gonna be able to get one of these and live stream a teardown before anybody else. And sure enough, my dream came true. And I will never let that down, and it'll be one of the things on my gravestone. Here lies Nick, founder of Nick's Fix. He's the guy that tore down a second-gen HomePod for the world to see before anybody else, and he also fixed a lot of first-gens. World's #1 HomePod fan. The Twitter username might be a bit of a joke, but I'm also 100% serious. I want 500 HomePods. I want to see what 500 HomePods can do. Yeah, 100 is cool, but what about 500? Do you think Do you think I'll be able to airplay to 500 HomePods at the same time? What do you think will happen? What do you think? How many HomePods do you think I will be able to airplay to before things go awry? Subscribe to my channel, leave a like, send me your broken HomePods, support the cause, find the answers with me. Alright, the wife just pulled into the driveway, and it looks like timing could not be any better because we have got Rob fixed. We could have got that done a lot sooner if we hadn't have messed around, but such is life. Alright, folks, that is all that I've got the time for. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will catch